Scientists have just discovered an organism that can learn without a brain. Scientists have identified a simple single-celled organism that can undergo an advanced form of learning called associative learning. And the organism does this without a brain. And this challenges a lot of what we thought was required for an organism to learn. Associative learning is when an organism starts connecting two events. A famous example is Pavlov's dog. If you ring a bell every time before feeding a dog, eventually the dog begins to expect food every time it hears the bell. In the brain, this learning happens through communications between brain cells, and the structures that form these communications are called synapses. For decades, scientists thought that learning worked because the more often two brain cells are activated together, the stronger their connection becomes. So for Pavlov's dog, if the brain cells involved in hearing the bell and eating food activate together repeatedly, their connection becomes stronger. Eventually, just hearing the bell alone will trigger the expectation that the dog will get food. But this new discovery complicates that explanation. Because scientists have just shown that associative learning can occur in a single-celled organism with no brain and no connections, aka synapses. This organism is a protozoan called Stentor coryllius. And how did they figure out that it could learn? Well, they did it through tapping. When this organism experiences a strong tap, it rapidly contracts its body as a defensive response. They started by delivering weak taps, which causes little to no contraction. And then they followed this up with strong taps, which causes a large contraction. They repeated these weak and strong taps many times, and that's when they saw something remarkable. Over time, the organism began to contract in response to the weak tap. In other words, the cell started learning that the weak tap always comes before the strong tap, and so it started contracting early. The organism learnt to associate events, and it happened in a single cell. For the first time, scientists have strong evidence that learning can exist without a brain, without synapses, and without neurons. Which means that there may be a more fundamental process to learning that even we don't understand yet. So scientists have discovered you can learn without brain cells, which means there might be hope for your siblings yet.